Hey guys, so Claude 3.7 Sonnet is out and actually taking the crown, which apparently happens at least every week now. It can think, and one of the most interesting features that it has that many models do not have, or as far as I know, this is the first model that has it, is that you can set it how long it actually thinks. Because in some cases, when it came to like DeepSeek, for example, it thought for like 5 minutes. No doubt, it was dynamic based on the difficulty of the query. But still, if you don't care that much about accuracy and care more about actually getting an answer in time, then this is going to be certainly a very useful feature. Also releasing some kind of Claude code thing that you can use in your terminal. Personally, I don't really see the point in this if you're already using VS Code along with like client or something. So what's the point in this? But hey, maybe it will be optimized for their API and they will add features in the future. One good news is that although Claude is kind of pricey, they kept the same price as Claude 3.5 has. So 3 in and 15 out, which is kind of pricey. And I certainly would not recommend that you use it for some kind of API that you would use outside of programming. Unless you have a very good reason, because you got to keep in mind that there are much cheaper options out there. So, software engineering, we see Claude 3.5, 01, 03 Mini, which apparently just claim to be amazing, but outside of one site that kind of showing that it's possibly amazing, it really was not. It was not rated that highly. So yeah, these are kind of on the same level. Yeah, that kind of checks out. And we have Claude 3.3 Sonnet, much better. And also, an interesting takeaway is that the thinking is free. I'm not sure about the pricing in this case. One of their models really not worth using, supposing they are pricing them the same. You gotta keep in mind that Claude had the same price. I guess this is obsolete now. But also 03 Mini is 4.4 out. So Claude is gonna be over 3 times more expensive. And DeepSeek R1 is only 2.2 out. So Claude is still gonna be over 7 times more expensive. So so they're kind of focusing on real world tasks and user and tool interactions, which I kind of like to see more of. That instead of trying to score high on some benchmarks, they actually try to go for an API that is useful. And Claude kind of nailed this, because Claude was really good at coding and wasn't really that great at many other things, at least not exceptionally. I'm talking of the Claude 3.5 here. But that actually made it fairly useful AI, unlike most others. And even like last week, I was using Claude mainly because it was the default choice. It was effectively the most useful option, even with every new model out there. So we can see their ranking. Okay. We can still see that it's mostly shining the brightest when it comes to coding. The thinking Sonnet is still kind of behind like 03 Mini, for example, when it comes to math. But again, this might not matter, because assuming that it's a coding god, then it's going to be extremely useful for that. Anyhow, it's looking really great for coding, and it very least caught up to the top players in other areas. We also got building responsibly, so they reduced the unnecessary refusals by 45%. That's always good to see, because you never want your AI to be like, oh yeah, just tell me what a chair is. Oh no, I'm not comfortable with that. Anyhow, we can see that their API costs the same, and using thinking doesn't cost anything extra. Still, 15 is a bit much. You would really need to justify it. So, on Live Bench, we see Claude 3.7 Sonnet actually taking first place. Although this benchmark has 03 Mini with a very high coding score. So at very least, this is either the top 1 or top 2 coder. For other areas, it really depends on your use case here. Because OpenAI is at the top with the reasoning models. Well, Claude is pretty much in the same tier too. Math, well, I guess DeepSeek is leading. Data analysis is led by Claude. So this could be very valuable, but we need more information. And other categories as well. So you would really need to pick the AI model based on your use case, I would argue. Especially because outside of O1, which is just ridiculously priced, Claude 3.7 Sonnet would be the most expensive at the top. On either coding benchmark, we see Claude 3.7 Sonnet taking the lead. I guess the second place would be R1 plus Claude 3.5 combo, but I'm not sure we can consider that. So it's gotta be like O1, and yeah, it's followed by Claude 3.7 not thinking, which is tying with O3 mini high. So that's kind of good enough. And you gotta keep that in mind that this is a reasoning model. So O3 mini is gonna be slower to give you an answer than Claude 3.7. So yeah, sure. Thinking is pretty good, but suppose you want an answer fast, then you might not use a thinking model for that. Which was one of the main reasons that I kind of stopped using DeepSeek R1. Because the answers were good, but they were also kind of slow. Unfortunately, when it comes to their chat, well, first of all, it is limited in the first place, and you cannot use the thinking model that they have. So you have to just stick with regular thinking. But if you have, for example, GitHub Copilot, or there are other services like Cursor 2, then you actually have access to Claude 3.7 Sonnet, like I do. What should I ask? I just asked this. Make me an Amazon clone in Next.js. Let's go. So this is like skipping 20 seconds, and we did not see the thinking process, so they are hiding it. And I guess Claude just assumed a few things about my project, but otherwise it's looking pretty okay, I suppose. So we have a package.json, we have a Prisma file for the schema, we have a env, we have a db2, which is kind of finally finished. So it took like 3 or 4 minutes to finish it with like 20 seconds of thinking, and it kind of assumed a lot of things about my project, and that's fair enough because I did not specify it. And we have alt, we got a layout, fair enough, we got a session provider, we got a header. I'm just kind of impressed by, I think you would definitely need to just customize a few things here. You know, possibly fix a few things. We would need to add a DB, for example. But I'm just impressed by how many things it actually added. And the percentage of usable code here that we got, especially with somewhat of a vague prompt, is pretty good. Fair enough. So we got the footer here. We got a product card. So it really tried. We got a page 2. Product idea. And add to cart as well. All right. So let's just test this. Can you make sure we use Terso as DB and Drizzle as ORM? So let's see how we can make changes. Of course, usually you would be doing this in your editor, but this time we're kind of going with this text style. Okay, version 2. And we managed to set up the DB and also made the schema. It's not really that surprising, but it is pretty good. And it kept a lot of things in mind. Anyhow, even before I use Sonnet, so it doesn't really surprise me that we got this Claude 3.7 and even the thinking version. So yeah, it's better. Maybe I'm going to stress test it in the coming week and report back. So anyway, it does seem to be the way to go when it comes to coding. But would it be the choice when it comes to some kind of API? Probably not, but depends on your use case.